now.
So for starters, your EOCross, while efficient, was not very ergonomic. That's quite rough. You could have done the same idea for EOCross, but cut out the B2 by doing U, D2F, U2, L2, D prime, R2. This is much more finger trick friendly. There's not much to say about first pair other than you missed the free pair. Otherwise, this is really good. Brilliant, good pair choice, solves BL, efficient solution, but there was a 3-mover, goddammit. While your second pair on its own is completely fine, it gives you diagonal pairs. This doesn't seem terrible, but it can give you some really bad cases that are just horrid to solve. In this case, you happen to get pretty good cases, but it can give you really bad ones, and it's much better on average to have 2 adjacent pairs solved, and then have, much easier, much simpler last 2 pairs than to have to do diagonal last 2 pairs. In this case, you could have done that by solving front left in actually 1 less move than it took you to solve front right, like that. And I couldn't tell you why, but when I looked at second pair, I had the vibes that this pair would give you a better solution. Call it a weird gut intuition, and as it turns out, it gives you a choice between a 3-mover, a 5-mover, or cancelling them both together to just solve right block like that. But regardless of mystical gut intuition, it's 1 less move to solve front left, and it solves adjacent pairs, which means that you would get an easier last 2 pairs purely on the right side. That's always better. No notes for third pair, very good. It's worth noting that by the time you got to fourth pair, you had all the F2L edges solved into the E-slice, so you could rotate and keep good EO, where you could do a variety of solutions. You could do triple hedge here, you could do this kind of overturning solution, or the inverse of that since that was already there. But the solution you did here, spammy into the back, is completely fine. Now, while I'm not going to say you should be learning ZBLL at a 12 average, this is T2 GLL, which is a very lovely set. But really, you should be able to do this OCLL lefty. Really small detail, really small optimization, but it is good to be able to do this case lefty because it is another COLL, so you can avoid diag, and it's hardly slower if at all. But we do U2 into righty. It's definitely slower if you lock up like that. You messed up the 2-sided recognition. I'll talk more about that in the path to improvement.
For an overview, your solution was quite good. Of course, ignoring the missed free pair and solving into diagonal slots, otherwise, very good. The turning and look ahead was solid at 6 TPS average with few pauses. Your move count was kind of tanked by the 4th pair solution choice and the slightly long PLL, but otherwise this was fine. Obviously, missing the 3-mover hurts the move count, and there's a few other small details like the OCLL AUF skip that you didn't seem to be attuned to. The big problem though was your EOCross. 2.6 seconds for EOCross sounds fine for someone who averages 12, but it was executed ridiculously slowly. You could do a lot better than this. And I'm sure some of this was you turning slowly because you wanted to look ahead into first pair, although if that's the case you should have done the best first pair, but you also re-gripped 4 times in 8 moves. That ergonomics did you in. So, for your path to improvement, the first thing I want you to do is to improve EOCross speed. Get a scramble, plan the EOCross, and time the execution, nothing more. Doing this for a while, you start to get a feel for what EOCrosses are faster and slower, regardless of move count, and you'll just start to default to the faster EOCrosses. I also want you to do untimed solves where you try not to solve diagonal pairs. Prioritize pairs adjacent from your first pair when sensible. Obviously, if there's a 3-mover into a diagonal slot and no good adjacent pairs, you can go for that, but ideally you'd be solving adjacent pairs. After a little while of this, your EOCross will be noticeably faster and your last 2 pairs will be better on average. Now you're going to want to practice the hell out of 2-sided recognition. You messed it up in this solve, and you don't practice something like this until you can do it. You practice it until you can't not do it. You need to have a ridiculously high success rate for fast 2-sided recognition. You don't want to be failing it at all. When this short little practice routine comes together, you're going to have faster starts, nicer F2Ls, and a more consistent last layer. And honestly, this isn't even a very intensive practice routine or any big changes or anything. These are just small little things you can do for 10-15 minutes before a solving session, and over the small little course of time, it's going to make you a lot better.